Yeah, hi. We'll just quickly start an introduction. First thing that we are going to look at is what is ServiceNow and what is it used for. So before we learn anything, first we need to know what is it used for. Okay, so we'll just start looking at the usage of the ServiceNow, and we'll just see what is it used for. And before we know anything about ServiceNow, we'll just go ahead and see how the today's IT system is. Not only the IT system, how the today's business is. So if you look at any business in the today's context, can we imagine any business without the IT? So no matter what business we are into. Now, if you say this is our business, and this can be anything. This can be the education business. This can be the retail. You take any business. Can you imagine any business without the IT systems? So when we say the IT systems, they can be the hardware, or they can be the software applications. So can we imagine any business in today's world without the IT systems? Can we? No, certainly we cannot. But the IT systems are tightly integrated with the business these days. You cannot separate your core business from the IT. So the IT is completely integrated with the business. So the business, no matter what business you are into, you can be in any business. You imagine any business, that business cannot be separated from the IT because they are completely integrated now. Okay, but in the olden days, maybe 30 or 40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, that was not the case. If you are into the finance business, your primary focus was only on the finance. And if you're into the education, your primary focus was only on the education. If you're in the banking, only on the banking. But now the situation has been completely changed. So you like or you don't, you need to heavily depend on the IT systems. So when you are heavily dependent on the IT systems, what this implies, if you want your business to run properly, you need to make sure that your IT systems are up and running. Your IT systems are available. So if your IT system goes down, that will certainly have the impact on your business, isn't it? Okay, so that is the dependency, that is the heavy dependency that we have in the IT systems. So the same thing, so when you have the dependency on the IT systems, you're being forced to invest on the IT equipment also. But in the olden days, if your core business is something, if your core business is the automobile industry, your primary focus and your primary investment will be only in the automobile. But nowadays, though your primary focus is on the automobile, you still need to invest on the IT systems. Because if you don't have the IT systems in a proper place, then that will have the negative impact on your business. So the same thing, the growing need of the IT was realized by a company called CCTA in early 1980s. So the CCTA used to be the IT service provider for all the government offices in UK in 1980s. Okay, so when they realized the importance of the IT systems in the business, the growing need of importance in the IT systems in the business, they started developing a framework called ITIL. So the primary objective of this framework was to reduce the cost on the IT systems and ensure, reducing the cost doesn't mean that you compromise on the IT systems availability. So it's you reduce the money or reduce the cost which is spent on the IT systems, but without compromising on the systems availability, on the IT systems availability. Okay, so in other way, the ITIL's motto was to reduce the IT systems maintenance and increase its systems availability. So that was the main objective in introducing this ITIL framework. So why do we call it as a framework? Okay, the ITIL is a set of best practices which will help you to increase the IT systems availability and reduce the cost on these IT systems maintenance. But we call it as a framework. The only reason we call it as a framework, they said these are the guidelines. Okay, these are just set up guidelines. And if you think these guidelines are going to help your business, then you can certainly go ahead and use them. When we say these framework, it's not necessary that you have to use them the same way that is described in the ITIL books. So you can modify or you can alter these best practices according to your business needs. So that's the reason we call them as a framework. When we say the framework, they can be altered according to your business need. So this ITIL, when this is published, it suggests if you have a huge organization, if you have offices spread across multiple locations or multiple geographies, then maintaining your IT is going to be very tough. So in order to avoid those kind of situations, what ITIL suggests, you set up, if you want to maintain your IT in a better way, first you need to do is set up a customer care for your IT systems. Okay, so when we say the customer care, it works in the similar fashion. They are going to be the first point of contact for all the IT related issues. And this IT customer care is named as IT help desk or the service desk. Okay, now we suppose this is the one organization, and this organization has multiple locations across the geographies, and each and every location we have the employees. So when you have the multiple locations, and in the multiple locations everybody using the IT systems, so if you want the people in one location to carry out their operations, then we need to have the IT guys in each and every location. So when you have the IT guys in each and every location, that's going to increase the IT cost. So instead of employing the IT guys in each and every location, what ITIL suggests, you set up an IT customer care, a centralized IT customer care, which will be located in one of your branches or one of your offices, but yet they are reachable to everyone. So though we have the IT help desk set up in one facility, this will be reachable to everyone. So they have some kind of, maybe telephone number or email address. Okay. So those things, everybody, no matter what location you work from, they would be able to reach the IT help desk. And there are different means of reaching the IT help desk. Okay. So what ITIL says, you set up this IT help desk, the IT customer care, who are going to be the first point of contact for all the people who are working in the business. So when we say we're working in the business, they can be the people from multiple or different departments, people from the the HR department, people from the finance department, people from the operations, people from the facilities. So you take any organization, the organization will have the multiple departments, isn't it? So when you have the multiple departments, and all the departments will use the IT services. So when they use the IT services provided by the IT department, and if they experience any issues with the IT services that they use, they can always contact this IT help desk. Okay. So when ITIL says that we need to have the IT help desk set up, it also suggests who all should be part of this IT help desk. Okay. So it says you need to employ the people who know the little bit of everything. What this IT help desk is going to be the L1 support. When we say the L1 support, they know the little bit of everything. Because in the IT systems, when we say the IT system, we have multiple IT systems in place. We have the laptops and the desktops. We have the different applications. The server. It can be the server, or it can be any business application. We need to have somebody to look at the network. We need to have somebody to look at the databases. Somebody to the server levels. Servers can be Windows or the Unix servers. Okay, and if we need to have somebody to look at the security, the firewall and all, storage, backup. So we have many systems in place. So when you have the many systems in place, the IT help desk guy should be in a position to know the little bit of everything, the basics of all, basics of the database, basics of the Unix, basics of the Windows servers, basics of any business applications. It can be the SAP application or the non-SAP applications. Okay, so this guy should know the little bit of everything. We call it the jack of all and master of none. So the similar kind of guys have to be recruited in the IT help desk, because they should know the little bit of everything, but they don't know the everything of anything. Okay, so this ITL says you have to have a IT help desk setup, and IT help desk should have the L1 resources. L1 resources in the sense they know the little bit of every IT system. And behind this IT help desk, you have your L2 teams. L2 teams they are specialized teams in their own area. So you have the L2 team for database, L2 team for networking, L2 team for storage, L2 team for backup, for the business application, for the networking. So you have all the L2 teams listed right behind the IT help desk. So this is the architecture. This is kind of setup which is suggested by the ITIL. So whenever any business user, any user who is consuming the IT services experiences any kind of IT related issues, they call the IT help desk. And IT help desk, with their little knowledge that they have, with that little knowledge, they'll try to diagnose the issue. And if that issue can be fixed with the expertise that they have, they'll go ahead and fix that issue over the phone. In case if they cannot fix it, if it is beyond their expertise, at least with the knowledge that they have, they would be able to isolate the issue and notify the right technical team. Suppose somebody, a user with the a laptop, reported an issue to the IT help desk stating he's unable to log into the laptop. So when IT help desk receives that issue, they should be in a position to isolate if the user is not able to log into the issue because of the laptop hardware issue, or is it because of the laptop OS issue, or is it because of the user credentials. Okay, so depending on the issue isolated, he sends it to the respective technical teams. Okay, so when the respective technical teams receives tickets, these issues, they gets back to the individuals, the one who reported the issue, and fix the issues for him so that he can continue working or continue with his routine. Okay, so once the ITIL, once you set up your IT help desk and your L2 teams, it says in order to improve your IT availability and reduce the cost on the IT maintenance, you should start recording every incident that is reported to you, reported to the IT help desk. That means any issue which is reported to the IT help desk, that has to be recorded somewhere. Okay, so when you record all the issues, you would be able to understand where your IT systems are and how your IT systems are, and based on this data, you would be able to take the next decisions. So what are the areas that you need to invest, or what are the areas which needs the more focus? So those kind of decision making can be done using the incidents reported data. Okay, so in order to record these issues, the IT help desk uses an application, and that application is called ITSM application. The reason we call it as ITSM, because only the IT related issues are recorded in this application. Okay, IT service management. Since only the IT related issues are being recorded in this application, we call it as the ITSM application. So in the ITSM applications, there are many players in the ITSM domain. So there are many guys, many products which are the ITSM applications, and ServiceNow is one of them. So initially, now for the time being, we call it as the ITSM, because initially when they started as the ITSM, and later they expanded their capabilities beyond the ITSM. Okay, so ServiceNow is one of the tools which is used to record the issues reported by the employees, reported by the IT consumers in the organization. Okay, so the ServiceNow is the one of the ITSM tools, okay, which is used to log the IT related issues reported by the internal employees of any organization. Okay, so if you understand the purpose of ServiceNow, we'll just go ahead and see who are all the other competitors or other players in the ITSM domain, and how ServiceNow is differentiated from its competitors. Okay, so if you look at the ITSM domain, in the ITSM domain we have multiple players. Players like BMC, Remedy, we have HP, Service Management, we have CS, Service Desk, we have IBM's Maximo, we have Jira, okay, and Microsoft also has their own ITSM tool. Okay, there is one more player called Cherwell. He's a recent entry into this domain. And besides this, there are other people. They have their own customized tools. Okay, so these are other players which are in the same segment as ServiceNow. So first we need to understand, how, when you have these many players in the same segment, how ServiceNow is differentiated from all its competitors. Okay, so first, in order to understand how ServiceNow is differentiated, first we have to understand this concept or the architecture of these applications. Except this Cherwell. Cherwell is a recent entry, so the architecture that I'm going to tell is going to be excluded. I mean, it is not going to be applicable for the Cherwell. Okay, so if you take BMC Remedy, HPSM, CS Service Desk, IBM Maximo, Jira. So when they started with the architecture called client-server architecture. Okay, client and server. So when you say the client-server architecture, it's like first this particular application that will be installed on one of the boxes, one of the physical boxes, and that box we call it as a server. Once it is installed on one particular server, because this application will be installed on one server, and this has to be accessed by the other people using the desktop or the laptop. Okay, you have the desktops, some laptops here, and in order to access the application which is hosted on one of the servers, what we needed to have is we needed to install a piece of software, and that's called as the client software. So this client software establishes a connection to the server. Okay, so if it is a laptop, and using the laptop, if you had to access any of these applications, first you needed to install the client software, a piece of software which establishes the connection to the server and the laptop. So once you have the connection established, then you can start recording the incidents. Okay, so if you don't have the client software installed, you won't be able to access the particular application, the remedy application. Okay, and suppose you have it installed, the client software is installed, but client software got corrupted. So if it is corrupted also, you wouldn't be able to access the remedy application. So this application will not be accessible until unless you have this client software installed and working. Okay, then later what they started publishing, maybe after some time. Initially when they started as the client server architecture, and then later they started publishing the application to the web browser. Okay, in the remedies case, they started the web browser version was called as a mid-tier. Okay, so using the mid-tier, they started publishing the application to the browser. So this has just decreased the complexity. So initially, when we wanted to access this application, we needed to install the client software, but later this has been improved, so you need not to have the client software installed anymore to access the application, but instead you just need to have the working web browser. And if you have the working web browser and the connection to the intranet, then you would be able to access the application. So that kind of improvement, there's a bit improvement has been made, but the improvement is made, but still the server is hosted within the premises. So when we say that within the premises, this is maintained by us. So when we say the maintained by us, when the server is maintained by us, what it means is we have the our aim is to use an application called remedy. Okay, but in order to use this application, so this is the application which we are intending to use, but in order to install or in order to use any application, first we need to have a physical box, isn't it? So if you have application developed directly, can you use it directly? No. First we need to have a physical box. That can be the hardware. So we call this as a physical box. On top of this physical box, you need to have a operating system installed. Okay, and once you have the operating system installed, on top of the operating system, you need to have the database. Okay, because the application, when we talk about the application is just a front end. It is used to gather some kind of information, and the information which is gathered by the application will be saved to the database. So until unless you don't have the database, you won't be able to use the application. So in order to use the application, first we need to have the database installed. So once the database is installed, that's when you can go ahead and install your application. So this is where you have your application, the remedy application. So if you look at this scenario, if you look at this, what it implies for us to use one simple application, we are being forced to maintain the physical box. I mean, we are being forced to buy a physical box and recruit or employ an expert who manages the physical box. Okay, and is it ending there? No. Again, we need to buy the license key for the operating system and an expertise or an expert to manage this operating system. Is it ending there? No. And again, we need to buy the license key for the database and an expert to manage the database if anything goes wrong with the database. Okay. And then on top of this, we need to have the license for this application. Okay. Since we need this application, if you are buying the license for this application and the expertise to maintain this application, that makes sense. But what about these other three unnecessary layers? Okay, if you look at these three unnecessary layers. So though we have the business need to use one particular application, we are being forced to invest in other areas because the application that we are using is dependent on the other systems. Okay, so this dependency, because this application have the dependency on the other systems, so we are being forced to invest on these unnecessary areas too. Okay, so in order to eliminate, so if you look at the ServiceNow architecture, this ServiceNow architecture, it's completely cloud. When we say the cloud, doesn't it mean you, in order to install and use this application, don't you need the physical box? Don't you need the operating system? Don't you need the database? Yes. Though it is hosted in the cloud, though we call it as a cloud, it still needs all these unnecessary areas. But these areas, the operating system, physical box, and the database, these areas are not going to be managed by us. This will be managed by the ServiceNow itself. So when you look at this architecture, this clearly eliminated all your unnecessary headache, isn't it? So all this unnecessary headache has been completely taken off by ServiceNow, and ServiceNow takes the responsibility of managing the physical box, managing the operating system, managing the database. It's not only the managing, even buying those license keys. So everything will be taken care by the ServiceNow. So if we have the business need to use this particular ServiceNow application, we can only invest or only pay for this application, but nothing else. Okay. So what, when we say this SaaS solution, the cloud solution, the cloud solution represents only the end product. Okay, so the end product will be given to you, and whatever the headache is there to maintain this end product will be retained by the vendor. So only the end product will be given to us. So all we need to worry about is how to use this particular end product and paying or buying the license only for the product, this end product, but not about the unnecessary other dependencies. Okay. So since this ServiceNow is provided as the SaaS solution, this unnecessary headache has been taken off completely. So you might ask one question. So when ServiceNow is in a position to provide this solution as a SaaS, the other competitors, didn't they provide the solution in the SaaS? Of course, they did try, but unfortunately they weren't as successful as ServiceNow, because ServiceNow is the first ITSM product which is provided as the SaaS solution. Okay, and keeping the ServiceNow success in mind, its competitors also tried the SaaS solution. Remedy came up with a product called Remedy Force, okay, which is again a remedy system hosted on the Salesforce, and making the Remedy Force as the SaaS solution. But unfortunately, this is not as successful or as convenient as ServiceNow. That's the reason this system has failed. So not only this, even the HPSM and all other competitors also came up with the SaaS solution, but they are not as successful as ServiceNow, because ServiceNow has expanded its capabilities beyond the ITSM. Okay, and one more question that you might get: when you have the database, the ServiceNow's dependencies. So when you have the ServiceNow's dependencies, when we say the dependencies, the database, the operating system, and the physical box, if these are hosted or if these are managed by the ServiceNow itself, how can we guarantee the ServiceNow's availability? Isn't it? If had this been managed by us, we would have some idea if the application is up or not. Okay, and since these are managed by us, we can have some kind of guarantee that how long this ServiceNow application is going to be up and running. But when you have these things managed by the ServiceNow itself, you might have the question of the ServiceNow's availability. Okay, so you need not to worry about the availability. ServiceNow gives 99.98% of availability. Okay, so in other way, you're saying, the ServiceNow says, when you buy the ServiceNow product, they are giving the almost 100% availability. They say that you can expect that system will be available round the clock and 365 days. Okay, there might be, it might be down for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and keeping that in mind, they are giving the 99.98% availability. Okay, so one more question. So it's not only the availability, since the database is hosted within the ServiceNow's data center, and all the records that you create in ServiceNow, they will be saved in the ServiceNow's data center. So when you have the data saved in the third-party data center, then you might have the question on the security, because the data that you're using, if you're the banking system or any financial institution, you might not want your data to be available on the cloud, on the someone else data center, okay, because you might have some sensitive information. So ServiceNow says you need not worry about the security also. They have the multi-tenancy in place. When we say the multi-tenancy, only the authorized users will be given the access to the database. Since this multi-tenancy is in place, your data is also secure. So you don't have to worry about the security too. So these two things, availability and the security, both are taken care by ServiceNow. Okay, so these two things are assured by the ServiceNow. So when you have these two things assured by the ServiceNow, I don't think we have any other questions or any other doubts in using this particular application. Okay, so now this SaaS solution is something which is differentiating the ServiceNow from its competitors. And not only the SaaS solution, ServiceNow also provides a PaaS solution. When we say the PaaS, it's a platform as a service. When we say the platform as a service, in the earlier, a couple of minutes ago, we discussed, in order to use any application, not only the ServiceNow, it can be any application, we need to have this physical box and the operating system and the database. These three things are mandatory for us to use or build any application. So what ServiceNow says, when you buy the ServiceNow from us, when you use our product, you need not to have these unnecessary headaches for you to create your business applications. Suppose you have a business need and you want to create a new application. So in order to create a new application, you need not to buy a new server, and you need not to buy a license for the operating system, and you need not to buy the license for the database. So whatever the platform, whatever the baseline which is required for you to build the application, that baseline is going to be provided by us. So all you need to do is just go ahead and start building your application. Okay, so this is also one of the other advantages, or one of the other features which is differentiating the ServiceNow from its competitors. Okay, and besides this, ServiceNow also got many other features. As I told you, ServiceNow has expanded its capabilities from ITSM. So it's now ServiceNow cannot be seen as only the ITSM product. It's called the Enterprise Service Management. It's no longer the IT Service Management product. Okay, so when you say the Enterprise Service Management product, it's going to include many other capabilities, such as the performance analytics. Okay, those are we have performance analytics, which is called as the PA. We have orchestration, which is used for the automation. We have service portal for the building the portals. We have PPM, project portfolio management, for you to manage your projects. We have HRSN for the HR management. We have finance, okay, for managing the finance business. We have SecOps, it's called security operations, for you to manage your security incidents. Okay, like this, there are many other capabilities ServiceNow has gained over the years, and with every release they're adding some extra features. Okay, so these are other capabilities which is differentiating ServiceNow from its competitors. Okay, and when you say this as the PaaS solution, and in order to build the business applications, you need not to do the heavy coding. most of the coding is eliminated in ServiceNow. In the ServiceNow, when it was established by Fred Luddy, his main motto or his main idea was to eliminate the coding part completely. So with every release, they're trying to eliminate the coding part. Okay, though it requires some kind of coding in order to build the new functionalities, but they're continually evolving and trying to eliminate the coding, and instead of the coding, they are introducing some configuration changes. Okay. So these are the other capabilities of ServiceNow, which is differentiating it from its competitors. Now, if you look at the ITSM market share, and if you look at this ITSM market share in the 7 or 8 years ago, BMC Remedy used to have the 80% of market share. Remedy used to have 80% market share, and all other players used to have only the 20%. But now the scenario, if you look at today's market share, this has been completely changed. Now ServiceNow alone owns more than 60% market share. It has got 5,000 customers, and it's 1.4 billion company now, and they're aiming to become 4 billion by 2020. Okay, and it was established. It was registered in New York Stock Exchange in the year 2014, and when it was established in the first year itself, they've seen the growth of 54%, the YoY. So that's how the ServiceNow's growth is, and that's how the ServiceNow in today's market. You name any big player, any big company in the world, their ITSM solution is ServiceNow. You name Microsoft, you name Apple, their ITSM solution is ServiceNow. Okay. And since most of the customers have recently migrated to ServiceNow from other ITSM tools, in worst case also, ServiceNow going to have the life of another 10 years. And this is in the worst case. And when I say the worst case, suppose tomorrow itself, there's a new product which comes into the market and it has got 100% more capabilities than ServiceNow. Even in that case also, ServiceNow is going to have the life of 10 years. Okay, and we still have the customers who are migrating to the ServiceNow, and that's the reason there is a huge demand for the ServiceNow admins and the developers. Okay. Okay, guys, with this, we can conclude our today's session. Okay, then. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.